Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Chiefs got back on track with an emphatic win over the Ravens. We saw a wild weekend in football, and the Eagles' offense was just too much for the Bucs.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Kansas City Chiefs are back on track after racing past the Baltimore Ravens. Locked On Chiefs host Ryan Tracy and Chris Clark react to the much-needed win.
Well, I mean, I think if you're a Chiefs fan, that's the magic of right now in this game is that you see what an impact Xavier Worthy has on this team. And, you know, I thought I had an idea about what the gap was. And this is no knock on Tyquan Thornton and Juju and Hollywood or anybody else. I thought I had a good grasp on what the gap was between Xavier Worthy and the other group of receivers on this team. And I was wrong. I mean, I think there's a wider gap between Xavier and everybody else. And then there's a little bit more of a gap between Rashid and Xavier. So you're talking about getting two Pro Bowl caliber, one maybe all pro caliber receiver and adding them into this offense. And it's not like you're just adding guys at preseason either. You're adding guys who know the offense, who've been here, who've worked around and have got that are a part of it. You're not just like squeezing in a veteran like a DeAndre Hopkins into this offense. You're taking two guys in their prime with skills that know the offense that you're just going to be plopping back in. And so I thought that Xavier was a bigger spark, I thought, than Pacheco was. I mean, I think just from the very get-go, the first play, Worthy being able to get the ball, take a hit, get back up. They got the penalty to the 15 yards. I thought that was big. And, you know, and later on when he had that 38-yard run on the 35-yard run on the reverse, that was just kind of the nail in the coffin. I mean, at that point, you just really had the sense the Ravens were completely and totally done. So, and the fact that they were able to get Worthy so involved, I mean, he had 8 targets in the game, and he told us after the game he's exhausted because they wore him out today. But the layoff he had and everything, there was no knocking off the rust for Xavier Worthy today. They put him to work. And I think that was the spark that they needed. I mean, we saw it. You add Xavier Worthy to this offense and other things open up. Add Rashid Rice and even more things are going to open up.
Yeah, and the thing that really got me excited was the deep pass from Mahomes to Worthy, because it showed Mahomes actually putting something right in the basket. Worthy didn't really even have to adjust. He put it right in his hands. And when you talk about Worthy's injury, it's a matter of, you know, reaching for the ball or going up for the ball that's going to cause an issue. Didn't have to do that on that deep ball. Didn't really have to do it. And I love the way that they used him in the passing game today. And, you know, I kept saying, sitting there watching him go down in the middle of the field going, I do not care, because you watched how much he changed the offense for this team, and the fact that he knew he has to get down. If he continues to play that way and continues to go down after, you know, a 5 or 6 yard catch because he doesn't want to take a big hit, I'm fine with that. That's all I really get through the season. That's all I really care about at this point. And he is such a huge addition to this offense. And the thing, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. The thing that really excites me about Worthy coming back is, because of what happened with Worthy, you had Tyquan Thornton step into a role he wasn't expected to be in, and I think it made him a better wide receiver. And I think the Chiefs are going to be getting paid dividends on that the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, the fact that you've been able to get a bigger role out of Tyquan and get him kind of acclimated into the offense, you are the better for it. I mean, again, you can see the gap between Xavier and these other guys. So once the Chiefs get back Rice and Worthy, and they're able to keep those guys on the field, it really just makes you wonder what they can do. And even the throw that you mentioned, like the one deep ball that Worthy did haul in, I mean, again, I like Tyquan Thornton. He can't make that catch. I mean, that's a ball, that kind of, sideline corner route that, Worthy can make. he might be the only receiver on the team that can make that catch. That's a complicated ball. And hey, they missed a couple of other deep balls that they would love to hit on. Hey, you're not going to hit them all, but if they hit on one of those and maybe hit 50% instead of 25%, this probably game. Well, what happens? It's 44-20 instead of 37-20. But they got what they needed to do, which is that, hey, those deep routes, the Worthy, that opened up things. It opened up things for Kelsey. It opened up things for Juju, Hollywood. I mean, it opened up things for him too. And if you look at the running game numbers, you would say that as well. I mean, once again, not great numbers, but Pacheco in 7 carries, 35 yards. I mean, that's his best performance of the season so far. You'd like to have more yards and more production, but it was at least efficient, which is something that the Chiefs haven't had on the ground so far this year.
Stay up to date all year on the Kansas City Chiefs by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Chiefs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Eagles got past the Bucs. Before we get to that, it was a wild, wild weekend in the NFL and in college football. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers led the Steelers past the Vikings.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast here at Croke Park here in Dublin, Ireland after the Steelers have taken down the Minnesota Vikings 24-21. Looked like it was going to be easy, but the Vikings brought it back close as the Steelers' injury started to mount. Brandon Echols eventually had to exit the game, did come back in the end, but Jalen Ramsey going out, making the Steelers down at one point to four of their top cornerbacks, which allowed for some big plays for the Vikings to spring towards the end. But huge plays from different players saved the day. TJ Watt getting an interception, also getting pressure on the day. Deshaun Elliott with a big-time interception early, also at the final breakup of the game, while the pressure was able to mount on Carson Wentz. DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers connecting for an 80-yard touchdown. Also, Kenneth Gainwell filling in for Jaylen Warren. Big plays all around. I'll say Deshaun Elliott stepped up in a huge way, coming back in his first game off injury. This team heads into the bye week 3-1. I had them at 2-2. We'll see where they go from there. Follow the Locked On Steelers podcast for our full episode coming out shortly.
Jackson Dart made his first start for the Giants, leading New York to a win over the Chargers.
The New York Giants are in the win column as rookie quarterback Jackson Dart, in his first NFL start, led Big Blue to a 21-18 win over the previously undefeated Los Angeles Chargers. Dart finished 13 of 20 for 111 yards and 1 touchdown, all while fighting with a sore left hamstring that he told reporters after the game he wasn't going to let force him out of the game. But while the injury did force the coaches to cut back a little on the game plan, the Giants' offense was still efficient enough under Dart. They won the time of possession battle, holding the ball 35 minutes, 28 seconds, and New York scored on 3 of their first 5 possessions of the game, including on the opening drive, the first time they've scored on an opening drive at home since November 13th, 2022 against Houston. The Giants' offense was also 7 of 15 on third down and finished with 250 yards total offense, 161 on the ground. Not to be outdone, the defense registered 27 quarterback pressures, including 12 quarterback hits and 2 sacks of Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. New York also had 6 pass breakups and 2 interceptions on the afternoon. The win, however, wasn't flawless. Besides ongoing problems in the red zone for the offense, where the Giants were 2 of 5 inside the opponent's 20, the big story is the potential season-ending knee injury suffered by Giants receiver Malik Nabers in the second quarter of the game. Nabers is feared to have torn his ACL in his right knee, and he was set to undergo an MRI on Monday to determine the extent of his injury. But still, his potential loss, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, or the entire season, is obviously a big one for the Giants, who otherwise had themselves a day in front of their home crowd.
Over on the diamond, the Cincinnati Reds clinched their first postseason appearance since 2020. And by the way, that means the Mets are out.
The Cincinnati Reds are going to the playoffs! playoffs. Thank you, Miami, because the Cincinnati Reds couldn't quite get the job done in game 162, but you take 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee. The Miami Marlins get the job done and finish the collapse that the New York Mets started. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. The Cincinnati Reds are heading to LA now for 3 ball games. Look, this has been a heck of a year. We've counted this team out multiple times. In fact, even as soon as like a week ago, it kind of felt like they were out of it. But the Cincinnati Reds are heading back to the playoffs, first full season since 2013. First season period since 2020, although we don't really count that. And this is going to be an absolutely amazing team to get into the playoffs because of the pitching. The Dodgers don't know what's coming. I know they won 5 out of the 6 in the regular season, but I don't care because this Reds pitching staff is on fire, and it's going to be tough for Shohei. It's going to be tough for Mookie, and it's going to be tough for Freeman to do anything against Green, Lodolo, Abbott, and this bullpen of fire eaters right now. Let's go!
Russell Henley had a chance to get a point for the American side, but Shane Lowry stole a birdie on the 18th to get that 14.5 points that Europe needed to retain the Ryder Cup. The U.S. nearly erased a massive deficit in singles, but wasn't quite enough for Europe. This marks the first Ryder Cup win on U.S. soil since 2012 and a gritty defense of the crown. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Colts found all the right ways to beat themselves in a close loss to the Rams.
Colts found all the right ways to beat themselves in a 27-20 loss to a really good Rams team. Here the Colts are. After starting out undefeated, they are now 3-1. In the grand scheme of things, not the end of the world. This is a loss to an NFC team. It's not going to factor into any tiebreakers. But the fact of the matter is, when you've got control of a game, when you should win a game, to choke it away can just be unacceptable. People are going to look at A.D. Mitchell's gaffes, his let-go fumble at the goal line, which took a touchdown off the board, his egregious holding penalty, which took a huge Jonathan Taylor run off the board as well. Those things buried him, but just as much on the defensive side of the ball, Xavier Howard is a 32-year-old player who was out of football last year and is playing exactly like it. Opponents smell blood in the water every single week, and the Colts have got to figure out that problem because it's going to continue to be a problem because 32-year-olds don't just magically get better throughout the season. At a certain point, you got to realize the guy kind of is who he is. The Colts had 11 penalties. Daniel Jones had 2 interceptions in this one. So there were plenty of times where the Colts played really good football in this one, but at the same time, they shot themselves in the foot until they had no more feet to shoot, essentially. So if you didn't catch the Colts Squad show, we talked all about it for an hour right after the show. So again, that's Locked On Colts on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Rookie running back Ashton Jeanty had an insane performance for the Raiders, but it wasn't enough to push Las Vegas past the Bears.
The Chicago Bears get the victory 25-24 over the Las Vegas Raiders in a roller coaster game. I mean, there is good and bad all over the place for this team. 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, Kevin Byard having 2 of them. He was reading Geno Smith like a book, but they couldn't stop Ashton Jeanty. And when it mattered most, they were getting the ball moved on them. But in the end, they got the victory thanks to an incredible play by the special teams unit getting the blocked field goal. And the offense is kind of the same story. It wasn't a lot of good. Max Crosby was dominating this football game pretty much from start to finish. They made it change at left tackle and right tackle in the middle of the game. But in the end, Caleb Williams does what elite quarterbacks are supposed to do. And he's not elite. I'm not saying that. But your quarterback is supposed to put your team in position to win a football game. An 11-play drive that ends with DeAndre Swift getting the touchdown to give the Bears the 25-24 lead. You can't ask for more from your quarterback in a day in which he's under pressure all game. He's barely getting sacked. Really only 1 or 2 bad throws. So overall, like, hey, you're 2-2. A win's a win. It doesn't really matter how ugly that it was.
And over in college football, it's the same old story for James Franklin and Penn State, who came up short again versus a big-time opponent, this time at home against Oregon.
What a performance by everyone. I could talk about every single player and how they played in this game in the box score because it was spectacularly good. And this was not 2 or 3 guys that you were leading on for a victory. This was a true team effort across the board. Penn State had an extra week to prepare. They had over 100,000 fans screaming at the top of their lungs, and Oregon found a way. They had to dig deep.
The SEC already heating up. Ole Miss stuns LSU to get a win over a top 5 opponent for Lane Kiffin.
Ole Miss took apart the LSU Tigers, winning 24-19. And honestly, the score was a lot closer than the game it actually was. Ole Miss ended up with nearly 500 yards of offense, 28 first downs, held LSU to 250 yards of offense. And honestly, whenever you're dealing with an $18 million transfer portal class and LSU being completely all in, and us hearing all week that the 85 Bears are coming up to Oxford, it is kind of nice to see them take apart the LSU Tigers. And Trinidad Chambliss, yeah, he's the guy moving forward. And not only is he the guy, he is potentially on Heisman list moving forward. Bye week for Ole Miss, then Washington State, then is the Georgia-Oklahoma duo. Should be interesting.
Coming up, the Eagles push their way to 4-0 with a little trickery. Philadelphia Eagles are now 4-0 after topping Tampa Bay on the road. Locked On Eagles host Louis DiBiase explained how Philly used a little trickery to push the Eagles past the Bucs.
But when you look at what was happening in over 100-degree heat in Tampa Bay, the Eagles never win in this stupid stadium. It's a very talented offense that got 2 of their 3 receivers healthy and ready for this football game. The offense is stalling out drive after drive. Again, it's 100 degrees and the defense is getting no rest. For them to pull off that win, for Moro Ojoma to get that sack, and before that, Jahad Campbell get that interception, to hold off this comeback, it's one of the grittiest, gutsiest performances I've ever seen from an Eagles defense. And the fact that, again, I've said this a lot on the show the last couple of years, but I can believe it because we've seen it from these guys in college and the last couple of years. But the fact that the youngest defense in football constantly rises to the challenge and bails out an offense that has been, I don't know if there's ever been an offense in NFL history that's had so many resources invested in it. Top draft picks, top tier contracts, like top 5 salary given out to these players, proven stars on that side of the ball. The fact that the defense, the youngest one in football, is the unit that constantly is pulling out these wins against really good football teams. I guess you could look at that from a glass half full perspective or a glass half empty perspective. I'm going to look at it as glass half full because there were some things from the offense I saw today in the first half that make me encouraged moving forward. They'll figure this out. And the fact that the defense that had a lot of change and a lot of turnover this offseason is the one humming on all cylinders, I think that's a win. And also when you look at it, Jalen Carter still does not look like he's in shape, clearly injured and not making the impact that we're used to from number 98. The fact that they are still looking this good is unbelievable. And I really want to highlight those 3 players I already talked about. Quinyon Mitchell, I had to change into the Guantanamo Bay shirt for this show because that was the performance of a lifetime. That might have been the best performance I've ever seen from an Eagles cornerback against 2 stars in that kind of environment, in that kind of heat. Quinyon Mitchell, time after time, just refused to let this team die. Had 3 of the first 4 drives of the game. He was shadowing Emeka Egbuka, which I loved. I suggested that on the show this week. And he had 3 forced incompletions to force punts. He was all over the run game making tackles. And then on that final drive, he had 2 huge forced incompletions deep down the left sideline and deep down the right sideline. He had another deep pass deflection against Chris Godwin in this game. Like, that was a game you won because of a cornerback. And I wanted to cry tears of joy because the vast majority of my life as an Eagles fan and an Eagles analyst, normally Eagles cornerbacks can't do what Quinyon Mitchell did today. Like, even that final drive when it feels like everybody else on that unit was completely gassed, and justifiably so, he was the one saying, no, like, we are not losing this game. I mean, the fact that he was just tracking down 2 of the twitchiest receivers in the league, Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka. I know they didn't have Mike Evans, but that's a really, really good duo. And number 27 was erasing them from this football game. Like, I think he was the hero of this game. But Jahad Campbell, too. Like, the Eagles' last 2 first-round picks, they were the stars of this game. Jahad Campbell now has 3 turnovers in the first month of the season that came at, like, the biggest moments of the matchup. He had the forced fumble against Dallas, only up 4, punching the ball out of Miles Sanders' hand. And then in this football game, in between, he gave up a 72-yard reception for a touchdown to Bucky Irving, but he forces a fumble on Irving the drive before to keep the Eagles in the lead when the momentum was clearly going to the Buccaneers, punches the ball out. He was tackling incredibly today. And then their backs are against the wall. Tampa Bay looks like they could tie the football game. Campbell closes in on a route in the right corner of the end zone, jumps the pass, and makes the catch. That's the difference. Is it wasn't a pass deflection. The fact that he was able to finish that play, I think back to the preseason when he made a great play and he was there. He was in position to make a diving interception against Cincinnati and he didn't catch it. And I kept saying, that's a great play, but we got to finish. Quinyon Mitchell last year was not able to finish those plays. Campbell finishes it in a huge moment. I love seeing that growth already from the rookie in 1 month, learning from the preseason. I wasn't able to bring that ball in, but this one in a big spot, you're damn right I caught this football. Jahad Campbell, the clutch gene of a day one rookie. I can't believe the Eagles got this guy at 31 overall. Heading into the week, he was already the highest graded rookie in the entire NFL, and now with 2 turnovers in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your defensive rookie of the year favorite through the first month of the NFL season. I mean, cornerbacks and linebackers winning games for the Philadelphia Eagles. Did I teleport into another universe? Where are we? This is hats off to Howie Roseman for learning from his past mistakes, adjusting his roster building philosophies. That's been a huge reason they're winning these games. Even last week, Quinyon Mitchell's job on Devontae Adams was a huge reason that you won those football games, that football game and this game today. So Howie Roseman kind of stock up, right? I mean, his past 2 first-round picks were the heroes of the second half. And what's so impressive, too, is Campbell is a former edge rusher that plays inside linebacker. Coverage is clearly still, he's been incredible in coverage this year, but it's still the thing he's farthest along in from a development perspective. And his hands are not natural. For him to bring in that ball, I mean, you can tell Zach Baun's rubbing off on him because Zach Baun is the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. And Zach Baun had a great performance today, too. He was all over the place. The Eagles have the best linebacker duo in the NFL. So the defense, hats off, tip of the cap. You're the reason this team is 4-0 more than anything. And Moro Ijoma, my guy. I mean, what a huge sack on the final drive to back Tampa Bay out of even field goal range. No points given. And there were so many moments that the pass rush in that fourth quarter were getting to Baker, but they just could not get him down. There was a play a couple snaps before where Zadarius Smith got there. It felt like Uche was going to get him down. Jalen Carter. Nobody could tackle Baker, and he moved the chains. Moro Ijoma said, not this time. Bull rushes up the A-gap, completely destroys his block, his assignment, and levels Baker. I mean, that hit was unbelievable. 2 sacks on the year already for Ijoma. He leads the Eagles in sacks this year. 3 of my favorite players on this team were the heroes, and so I know there's some things to be concerned about on offense, but I'm just enamored with that defensive performance. I can't wait to go back and watch the tape. Quinyon Mitchell, Jahad Campbell, Moro Ijoma, Zach Baun, Cooper DeJean was great in this game. I know Keely Ringo is still a liability in space as a tackler, but he had the fumble recovery off Campbell's forced fumble. He had a forced incompletion on a 4th down, made a couple key run stops, blew up a screen today. I think Ringo's clearly CB3 right now. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. I actually thought Ringo had a pretty good performance. The defense from top to bottom, I know Makuba, allowed that deep touchdown, which was brutal. But overall, they're the reason that you won this football game. And guys, can we just talk about it? We finally won in Tampa Bay. I mean, thank the Lord. It just felt like it was when they were coming back. I'm like, this is inevitable. It just feels like we're never meant to win in this stupid stadium outside of the one time in 2023. When they were coming back, I'm like, of course, this is what happens in this damn building. But we finally got it done. Monkey off the back. The Eagles are 4-0, and they stop one of the best teams in the NFC from jumping them.
And finally, the Indiana Fever just won't go away. Playing without Kalen Clark and 5 other key contributors, they dug deep on Sunday, knocking off the defending champion Las Vegas Aces 90-83 to force a decisive Game 5 in their playoff series. It was Indiana's 3rd elimination game victory of the postseason, the most by any team since 2022. Now, 1 win in Vegas on Tuesday would send the Fever to their first WNBA final since 2015, an outcome that seemed impossible a month ago. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, can the Broncos shut down a Burrow-less Bengals squad? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.